All right, we're live. So welcome back, everyone, to the Corona Geek Hangout on air here every week, every Monday at 2 p.m. Central. Now, today is a special episode. Since we're doing this on a Wednesday, we've got a special guest in-house, Walter Liu, who is the CEO of Corona Labs. Say hello, Walter.
Hi, guys.
I'm also joined in the studio here by Dr. Brian Burton and Toff Ward. Say hello, guys.
How you doing? Although technically, I am in a totally different studio. Just, don't want to confuse his green screen with mine that actually has a background.
So wait, how come your green screen doesn't show you like in Maui or something?
I said the same thing.
That's totally later. I can do that anytime I want.
Oh, you can do that in post. All right.
That's right. Post-production, always post-production.
All right, all right. Next time I'm going to have a green screen too. So.
That's right. All right, so should we give you the bio? Should we give the Walter bio?
That's boring.
You don't want to do the Walter bio, the boring part?
Whatever.
All right, well, let's jump to the interesting piece.
Whatever.
Whatever.
That's what Google's for.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll put it in the show notes for everybody who's interested in that kind of stuff. So, Walter, tell me.
Yeah.
What's it like trying to support all the different OSs and devices that are out there in the market? I mean, it must be incredible.
It's incredibly fun. It's really interesting. I think what it does is it really forces you to keep things honest about how you develop the code and the architecture in a platform. But it's definitely challenging, especially in a couple recent months. I think there are a ton of new devices that came out. The iPhone 5 came out. The Kindle HD came out. And then last week the Nook HD came out. So our entire community is very interested in trying to learn, well, how do we get our stuff working well on that? It's been an interesting challenge for us to say, well, how do we make sure our platform is working just fine on that? And we've gotten early access to some of those devices and been able to prototype and make sure everything's working well. And there's also another challenge, which is just that with folks like Apple, they're pushing iOS updates left and right every single day, and we're just working hard to make sure that as we continue to evolve the platform forward, everything that you do that you use with Corona continues to work just fine with every single update. And we've heard and seen a lot of stories on Stack Overflow where everyone's been facing challenges, not just Corona developers, but normal iOS developers on other platforms. They're just struggling to keep up with all the different kind of bugs and changes. Just the other day, we got a bug from a major game studio using Corona, saying, "Hey, suddenly things are crashing on iOS 6," and we spent several days on this one bug, and it turned out that it was a change to how iOS called the destructors on a different thread, causing this race condition, and it was incredibly hard to reproduce. It took us 2 days just to find a reproducible test case. But once we did, we finally realized what we needed to do, and luckily the fix is checked in. So as of hopefully this morning with the daily build, it'll be fixed. But just to give you a flavor of that's the kind of thing that happens kind of week after week, and at the same time, we're also trying to get new features in. So it's challenging, but it's fun, and I think we're trying to make our developers really happy.
So do you guys bring in multiple devices? I mean, do you have to get down to the device level to figure out?
Oh yeah. I mean, so the funny thing is so when the iPhone 5 came out, David was like, we got to get the iPhone 5. So he went out, woke up at 5 a.m., camped out in front of the Apple Store, in the San Francisco Apple Store, and then he also hired someone else to stay at the other Apple Store in San Francisco to say, go there at 5 a.m. just in case that line was shorter, and just in case he couldn't get the iPhone 5. And he got the iPhone 5. But the funny thing is, that Friday morning when the iPhone 5 was released, I was like, well, why don't I just stop by the Palo Alto store, because that's the flagship store, and you got to believe that it's going to have a lot of inventory there. And so I just stroll in at 11:30, and the line was like 3 people long, and I was like, and I got my iPhone 5 in there.
Sweet.
So it's kind of funny, but I guess the point is that we try really hard to make sure we have all the devices. We actually have a room back there that's just this picture of, like, if you took a picture, it's like this whole table filled with devices. Last Friday, we got a prototype of a Nook HD device that we're kind of testing and making a few things, and I wrote a blog post Monday evening, talking about kind of some of the issues we found, some of the workarounds we found, and how we're in touch with them about that. But they're still a few weeks away from GMing their code, but it's good to really for them being able to work closely with folks like that and getting early access to these devices, so that by the time things are shipping, you're able to deliver your content immediately. Your app can go on without barely any issues.
Okay.
So yeah, we do have a huge set of devices. It's definitely a lot easier on iOS because they're much more consistent. With Android, we've got we try to get all the most popular Android devices under the sun. I'm sure there are actually a trillion obscure Android devices, so we don't get all of them, but we try to get most of them. And so yeah, we just kind of test them. When we do Android, we have to test on what we try to do is we test like on the Nexus 7 on this Android device, and then we also make sure we have to test on all these different like Samsung phones, all these different HTC phones. If you're on the market for a new Android phone, I would not recommend some of the HTC phones because we've just seen a ton of OpenGL bugs that we've had to work around on HTC devices. So if you're counting on trying to get a bunch of games working well on those devices, you should be careful. I think they may have gotten better, but at least the older phones, maybe the ones that came out last year. So definitely don't bother getting a used HTC phone. Maybe the new ones are fine, but the used HTC phones definitely do not get.
So you're saying that even from a developer standpoint on this side of things, it's more challenging to develop for those particular devices because of that, or is it just on the Corona Labs side of things that it's where the challenge is?
You mean for them or for us?
Well, you guys
for both.
Yeah. You guys are handling things on the backside from that we never see out here in the wild.
Oh yeah, the kitchen's crazy.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
If you think about like a restaurant kitchen, it's like there's always some it's funny. It's like if we were to think about the menu had the Android kind of menu and the customers want the Android stuff. It's almost like when the order comes in and you're in the kitchen, it's like yeah, I want this dish, but I want the mashed potatoes replaced with the roasted potatoes, and I don't want this sauce, I want that sauce, and I want less salt and more pepper. That's what it feels like when you're developing for Android devices, because there's so much fragmentation. Just to give you an idea, even we've hit multiple kind of random OpenGL device driver bugs. There's one blending issue on one thing where it wasn't pre-multiplying alpha in a funny way, and so the blends, everyone's complaining the blends were weird, and there's a major publisher that was complaining to us, hey, our stuff doesn't look right on this device, and we're like, that's weird. It should look okay, and we looked at their test case and we're like, yeah, that's strange, and it turned out it was some weird quirk that was different about their device. But it was a popular enough device that we really couldn't just say, oh no, don't worry about the device, because there were a lot of customers. So we're like, okay, well, I guess we got to fix it somehow. I don't know how. And luckily our engineers are highly talented, so they find ways around this stuff. We've just got this process where we're finding ways around it, and that was kind of also the impetus behind daily builds, was that we need to put builds out all the time, just because things are changing so fast, new devices are coming out so fast. If we kept to our every 3-month release cycle, you guys, our developers, just wouldn't be able to keep up pace with how fast things change. There were a few quality issues with daily builds, several months ago, but we think we've addressed those. And so, daily builds these days, I think you'll notice that the quality in general is pretty much higher. And so even after a major public release where we fully tested out, the daily builds tend to be pretty consistent in terms of their quality.
Yeah, I like the rhythm that you guys have gotten into. I mean, I'm personally, I'm constantly going out there and pulling the latest and greatest to see what's going on. Just to see make sure that I'm on the freshest, version of the SDK.
Right. So just this morning, I don't know if it posted this morning or not, but if it did, the next daily build will contain a fix for iOS 6 specific networking bug. That only happens in iOS 6. It'll also contain a core bug that was my fault, related to trimming in sprite sheets. That's now fixed. Related to if you touch it, it wouldn't touch correctly. The touch listener wouldn't fire correctly. But anyway, that was one of our a student in Korea found that, and it was a very valid bug, and I was like, oops. So, but that's fixed. So we're constantly trying to get these fixes in. There are, iOS 6 itself has been a challenge because Apple has decided that and this has been a pretty active thread on our forums. The Game Center stuff only works in portrait. So you have to have, and when you do a game, your Game Center, if you have a landscape-only game, it will crash if you try to use Game Center because your app has to Apple's basically requiring your app to support a portrait orientation so that the Game Center login interface can come up.
Gotcha.
They actually document that in their release notes, amazingly enough. So they're like, yeah, we know this is serious enough for us to tell you and warn you. Unfortunately, what that means for developers all around the world, including Corona developers, is that at least until they fix it, assuming they fix it, it's not clear that what they're going to do, but assuming they fix it, people are going to have to worry about getting their stuff to support basically portrait orientation if it doesn't already. So it's been a challenge, I think, and that just highlights kind of how quickly things are changing, and the fact that even the major platform vendors, Apple and Google, are shipping their stuff with lots of bugs. So
everybody's
it's unfortunate for everyone else.
Yeah, everybody's trying to move stuff so quickly, right? Is that
yeah,
pretty much
exactly.
it?
And I think what's happening is that the competition from folks like Android and from these other guys is forcing Apple to say, well, we need to keep innovating on our platform. We need to basically keep pushing the envelope so that we're always ahead, so they can't catch up, and in some sense that allows Apple to continue to charge a premium for their devices because the software gives them this kind of moat that people can't encroach upon because they're just kind of staying far enough ahead that people will perceive the iPhone still as this kind of highly valuable piece of hardware.
So I know you guys support a lot of different platforms. I mean, there's the Nook, the Kindle Fire. So how are those platforms coming along? And do you see a growth in developers taking that up, or what's the?
It's interesting. I think our point of view is pretty unique, and I think it's the right way to go. And from our perspective, we really want to think in terms of of what it looks like for the developer. So the developer is saying, I want to create an app, and then I want to make money from that app. So if you want to make money from that app, you're going to say, well, I want to ship my app on the iTunes Store, right? And then you want to say, well, I want to ship my app on the Google Play Store, and then I want to ship my app on the Nook for Barnes & Nobles and Amazon. So it's really important that you be able to kind of target those stores, and especially with Android, there's this huge piracy issue. And so I remember there was a pre-conference session for game developers and game engine type folks like us at Google I/O, and there was an hour where a good hour, like this is a whole day thing. There's a good hour where people are talking about piracy and how especially people in China and I guess people related to me in China perhaps are trying to circumvent some of the digital rights signatures and things like that. I don't know if it's true, but whatever. It's probably true. I mean, piracy, in college kids, I remember in college people stole Adobe software, so everyone's pirating. So.
Yeah, it's not a new problem, yeah.
Yeah, so the idea is that if you target, so I think the way we structured it is the right way, to make a long story short, because what we do is we allow you to target the Google Play Marketplace with the Android builds. We allow you to target Nook. We allow you to target Amazon Kindle. And what we do with each of those builds is we prevent that build from being pirated onto another kind of pseudo-compatible device. So, like, for example, if you bought something on Nook, you couldn't just give that APK to your friend who has a Samsung Galaxy. It would just not run. And we enforce that with some quick checks to make sure, hey, well, you didn't buy it on the store, so you should, do the right thing. It's not really a DRM thing. It's really kind of a dumb, stupid thing. But but it's annoying enough that someone who's the general population is not going to pirate your stuff.
It's a software club.
Right? Yeah.
Remember
the software handler that's like, whatever, and no.
Yeah, make it annoying enough that people.
Right, exactly. It's not really that sophisticated, but it's supposed to be annoying enough that it deters most people it tries to keep most people honest, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why a lot of people pay for music these days. It's not because you can't find it for free, but it's because it's stupid simple to buy most of the time.
Exactly,
You know.
exactly. And the way we think about the industry, like it's not like 10 years ago where, you bought a box, from Adobe for shrink wrap software or a game, for I forget what the game was back then. It's been too long, but and it's moved to more of a model. If you think about how people consume most software today, it's about just the same way people buy music. It's the same way they're buying apps for the iPhone, right? Or in Google Play, they buy music, videos, or apps. Kindle Fire, same thing. Nook is the same thing. So if you think about it, as developers, and this is something that we really believe, is that as developers, you guys are developing content. You're not developing apps anymore. It's not like people think of this as software or ones or zeros or code. They think of these as just kind of like little interactive pieces of content that are more interactive than your standard video or music or book that you buy. And that's the direction people are viewing these things. And so we're all about trying to enable you guys and make it easier for you guys to develop the content in the same way that Final Cut Pro made it easy for people to create movies, the same way that Logic made it easy for people to edit audio, and the same way. So we're looking at ways of saying, well, how do we do that for you guys? And we think, the SDK today is a great start, but we were moving in a direction where we want to take that to the next level, not just from a coding level, but on more of a non-coding level as well.
Okay. So since you kind of went down that path, then what's coming up? What's next? What's the
So there's so much to talk about, and the danger of talking about some of these things is people implicitly think that, well, this is going to be available tomorrow. So let me just preface, I'm talking about just a lot of things, and some of these things may be available tomorrow, but not all of them. So one of the things that we really want to do is take our graphics to the next generation. Definitely OpenGLES 1.x is serverless well, and that's actually been the broadest of addressable market, especially with the Android devices out there. Most of them do support Android 1, or practically all of them support Android 1.x. But that number is slowly diminishing, and so the timing in which we're thinking about delivering OpenGLES 2.x and shaders and things like that, I think jives well with where the market is heading in terms of the lifetimes of these devices. As more and more kind of OpenGL 1.x devices kind of go off market, I think we're going to be in there at the right time. In addition, we're thinking about we actually obviously have this enterprise thing that's available to more kind of the hardcore kind of software engineers that know Objective-C and Java and things like that. But we're also looking at kind of a tier in between. And that tier would allow someone from writing Lua code to access Java APIs, but from the Lua side. So that you could continue to just write Lua code. If you were familiar with the Java APIs, you could access that from Lua. And we're thinking of, and if we can figure out all the Apple terms of service, we'd love to be able to bring that available to you on the iOS side as well. We've also been Mac app is something we talked about a long time ago, and we still want to deliver that. Obviously, if you've read some of my blog posts recently, we've hit a lot of kind of speed bumps because of the macOS 10.8 Mountain Lion stuff, just causing a lot of problems. I think that our biggest challenge is that right now is that there's this weird stuttering thing, which some people have been complaining about on the Mac simulator, and it's not necessarily a kernel performance issue. It's actually the fact that when we change the underlying architecture to allow native widgets to appear in the simulator, the text fields and the web views and those things to appear in the Macintosh simulator, not the iOS simulator, that actually caused all these stuttering issues. And so it took us a long time to work with Apple to figure out how to get those native widgets to work on top of OpenGL. And now we're actually going to have to talk to them again about, okay, well, how do we fix the stuttering issue? Because you told us to do this, and that's causing stuttering. So that's the biggest kind of something like where we want to overcome, and I think that'll put Mac app back on track. Let's see, what else? We really want to get some core infrastructure things, some basic things like, zip library support and, bonjour type things and a couple other things like that. I mean, there are key infrastructure pieces like that. We want to take the widget library and the storyboard library to the next generation, to the next level. So widget library, we want to be kind of target more towards larger screen interfaces, have more widgets available, have better kind of layout controls and things like that that help you kind of lay out things much more easily and provide a lot more structure. With storyboard, we're thinking, well, storyboard's a good start, but a lot of people who want to create games or interactive books, I think we could add a lot of functionality to storyboard that really make it a lot easier to get your game off the ground, to have some initial structure that's more of a template, like here's a home screen, here's multiple levels. With storyboard, I think with the book apps, we think there's a lot of simple things we can do that really make book authoring a lot easier and a lot better.
Okay.
I think I can go on. There's a lot more other stuff, but I don't know if I'm covering enough. Am I covering enough area that helps you get a sense, or are there more questions you got?
No, that's good. So there's a lot of third-party tools out there for level editors, level helpers, sprite sheet stuff, all that stuff like that. Is there anything on the Corona Labs side of the house that?
Well, we have had this kind of level editor beta thing out, which I think it's good, but we think we could go a lot further. So we're debating whether or not we should release something early and just get it in people's hands, or we really want to integrate kind of the kind of experience that we think goes beyond kind of what we're seeing out there today, and really fulfills kind of the vision that we've had even as far back as several years ago. So that's still in the works. We're just not sure. We're still debating whether or not it's quote unquote ready yet, because we think there's so much. We think we could do something a lot better, and so we're debating whether or not we should just do that or not.
So just challenge.
Let's just go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. Yeah, just challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just challenging. You're trying to hit your own bar, right? Hit your own challenge.
Yeah, exactly. We set the bar pretty high, and our goal is with these things is we want to really kind of make a real impact for people. I think with the SDK we found that we can help a lot of people do cool things. So people who've never programmed before are programming for the first time because Corona made it easy for them. People who have done some stuff on iOS are finding the Corona they can do a lot faster, and then all these studios are doing things. But in the back of my mind, if I had an opportunity to kind of try out something else than the path I went down, I actually considered going down more of a designer path. And so it's really and that's why I did a little graphic design in college, designing posters and brochures for some of these student groups, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. But then this notion of would I be a starving artist kind of took over, and I was like, oh, well, I like eating, so and then I went down this more engineering practical track. But deep down, I've always wanted to say, well, why don't we should be able to enable these these Photoshop guys and these Illustrator guys and guys who use Creative Suite and Final Cut Pro, these guys to really create interactive content. And we think we put the right foundation. And if we think about the next kind of set of layer of bricks we want to lay, we want to offer them something really special. And so we had this levels beta out there, but we think we could do a lot better.
Yeah.
Well,
it's interesting you say that because when we put the meetup together in the Dallas area for Corona, the invitation went out pretty much to not just programmers but to artists and storytellers and designers and stuff like that, because like you said, I mean it's a content creation tool, not just a ones and zeros tool.
Yeah, it's funny. I think a lot of people don't understand it, and we're surprised that no one else has caught on. I think it's not easy to really kind of immerse yourself in that way of thinking if you haven't done it before. And so even if someone says it to you, it's not like it'll just click. But I think for us, it's kind of this, at least for me, it's a visceral thing that I'm like, really, I'm all about creating things. And if I can create things that help other people create things, then, I'm partaking in that creative process. I remember back when the iOS SDK first came out, and there were all these artist-type people who were super excited. And even when I was at Adobe with the Flash guys, you see these artist guys do amazing things, and they're not programmers by trade. They they're not really into namespaces and I don't know, whatever, pointers and all this thing about, okay, is a typed language better than a non-typed language? They don't care. They just want to create great content that really is exciting to people. And when I saw them, it was kind of sad because all they could do was put photos in the photo library here and say and talk to potential clients and say, well, imagine this interface, and they show the first photo, and then they swipe and take you to the next photo in the photo album, saying, well, this is what happens next, and then they say, what happens if I hit this button? They swipe back 3 times to go to the right photo, and it was like what's that thing called from the old Apple days, like not quick draw, HyperCard. It was like HyperCard, but like really manual. Like you have to like move your finger.
Yeah, kind of like the iOS App Store is today.
Right. Oh wow.
He went there.
I went there. I'm sorry. Ow.
Damn.
Okay, Walter. I learned yesterday that my students actually are watching these. Which completely shocked me. Which means we have a large number of students that are or people out there that are just getting started in becoming an app developer.
Right.
What would be your advice to them for getting started? And I mean, obviously, many of them are choosing to use Corona or are very interested in using Corona. What advice would you give to them for getting started, and where should they be putting their efforts in their app developments?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I think they should not be afraid of failure. I think if they get an app out there, they've already succeeded, because there's so many people out there that start something or say they have an idea, but they never get it off the ground. And one thing that we're really happy about is that when we hear stories from our developers, they talk about how they have an idea, they found out about Corona, they start playing with it, and they're able to get something done. And I think, I think there are a lot of people out there who just kind of sit there and say, I want to do something, but, never get off the couch and say, I'm going to do it. And so if your students are following through and doing it, they're going to learn a lot just from the process. And if they happen to be a great success at the end of the day, more power to them. I think it's like that 14-year-old Robert Ney who did Bubble Ball, right? I mean, I don't think he imagined he would hit the number of success he did. I think on the third day, when he hit 100,000 downloads in the forum, he was on the forum saying, hey, I got 100,000 downloads. Is that good in one day? And I was like, yeah, that's good. So it just goes to show that you're just going to learn a lot from the process. I think in terms of the actual process, don't be afraid of asking lots of questions. Find people who if you're lucky enough where there's a critical mass of a community where you can get people to help answer questions and meet regularly and maybe even help each other. I think that's helpful. I think that's what makes kind of by analogy. I can give you an analogy here in the Silicon Valley. There are these kind of like places that are called like Hacker Dojo or little like places where basically all these entrepreneurs meet. They pay like $10 and they camp out for the whole day, and that's their office space. But because there's other entrepreneurs, they can bounce ideas off of them and things like that. And so getting that feedback from someone is really helpful. So I guess the other piece of advice is, when you do something, try to get some feedback from different people, and then over time you'll start to realize, what's good feedback and what's bad feedback when you get it from people.
Yeah.
So those would be, I think, 2 key important things. And then, sometimes there's a temptation to overanalyze things and overthink things. So sometimes just start playing. And through that process of playing, you'll say, oh, this worked or this didn't work. Or, oh, you know what? I have this idea, and it just happened. I thought of it because I was playing in this one area. And if you don't ever start your journey, you'll never get to the end of the journey.
Well, you guys put out a lot of tutorials, right, on the site, and have been doing more and more of that here lately. So that's a good reference point. Of course, Brian's got his book. He's and so there's several.
Of course, Brian's got his book. You should tell your students about your book.
Right, right, yeah, exactly. So there's lots of.
It's required reading. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
But but if I'm not lucky enough to attend, let's say, Brian's college course or
Right.
something like that, where else, what other references are good for developers? What are other developer
So
training is out there?
there are resources on our site, and we're definitely in the process of revamping and trying to develop more kind of an educational developer center. We haven't fully done that quite yet. So there are other places we recommend in the meantime. One of them is learningcorona.com.
Okay.
Has kind of this huge index of various tutorials. I think Brian, even some of your tutorials are up there. Some other folks have tutorials that are up there that are really popular. That kind of are video tutorials. There are some code walkthroughs, and we were in touch with that guy about potentially kind of bringing those links and moving them, or having kind of a version of that on our site as well. Stay tuned on that. I don't have anything there yet, but definitely learningcorona.com is a great site. We have our own kind of documentation. We've got sample code that you can check out.
I know there's also there's a lot of meetup groups, right? So on the website,
there's tons of meetup groups around the world. We've got tons of folks throwing meetups. So if there's a meetup nearby, it's a great thing to go check out and learn from your peers.
Okay. Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anything else? Any other highlights or anything else that you want to share? I mean, we're kind of at the 30-minute mark here, so.
Oh, okay. Hey, I have a few more minutes if there's any other kind of main topic you want to.
Okay. Well,
I don't know. Or to be touching everything already.
Well,
Nothing else in the
there's always more that we can ask.
Yeah, there's always more. So you mentioned devices earlier, and of course, Windows 8 is coming out. So, any plans to support that?
We'd love to see some devices out there first.
It's vaporware. What do you want?
It's funny. I'm reading these articles where like Microsoft has another event, and no one has played with the device yet. It's like, here's a picture. Okay, that's interesting. No, but seriously, I think we know Microsoft's not going anywhere, and they're a very serious player. I think for us to really invest in a new platform, we really want to see that there's a market out there for you guys. If there's only like me and my grandma who have the device, that's just not interesting. Okay. So we're definitely paying attention, and we're actually in close discussions with them about how we can work together to bring Corona onto their platform. It's just not. It doesn't feel like it's hit critical mass, and it doesn't feel like even within the next year they're going to hit some sort of critical mass where it becomes interesting enough for us to do it independently. But we're actually talking with them about saying, how can we work together to maybe do it ahead of where we would organically do it ourselves. And that goes for some of the other players out there as well. We're in pretty constant conversation with several folks on that front as well.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be yet to be seen. I mean, because they have to get their own developer community behind it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's an uphill battle just because there are so many people working Android and iOS today, and I believe that Microsoft will get it right by version 3 at the latest, and perhaps earlier. So, but we're definitely going to keep our eyes open on that. We can definitely keep our eyes on what are the platforms. I think for the time being, Mac app still seems like a better story for a lot of people. Definitely, Windows 8 apps might be interesting. So,
okay.
But it's not. It's something that we're, if we had the trade-off between investing there or giving you more features, we're going to give you more features at this point.
Yeah, well, right. Which kind of leads into my next question is, a lot of people I talk to kind of view, when you talk about iOS, you're talking about games. So,
right.
Corona's not really just about game development, right? Though it's got,
right.
I mean, you can build business apps with it. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing. We did obviously focus in the beginning a lot on the games, the interactivity, the graphics, and that's why a lot of people today, think of Corona as a great platform for games, a great platform for interactive ebook type things, for interactive book apps, and people have written third-party tools that build upon Corona to make some of those things a lot easier. But it's surprising when I've gone to meetups. Even the one in Dallas, I think, I don't know, it was a while ago, a year ago or so. there were these guys who were talking about using Corona for apps, just like you said, that are more utility style or things like that, that are more cookie cutter like, and that are, I guess normally, you would think they wouldn't be using Corona, but they are, which is really interesting. And I think that's because we have offered some capabilities, like the ability to offer the web views that are, sit side by side with OpenGL. We have a widget library, things like that. And obviously, there have been many requests to improve that, and we're definitely working on taking that to the next level, to the next generation. But it was surprising, but we hear more and more of that, and so we see that as a very important area for us to really start, putting some wood behind.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it makes a natural fit. I mean, it already does databases locally.
Right.
You do JSON, so you can do
Right.
remote, marshal data back and forth. You've got
Right.
list views and all the different ways to show information and text
Right.
fields to pull information in, and all the elements are there. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
beginning to put it together. And I think
Yeah. Exactly.
I think what I was at that meeting in Dallas last year, and I think that what they were really talking about there, a lot of those people were talking about being able to put together apps that they could spend a lot of time and investment up front, and then be able to roll those out to multiple clients.
Right. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So it would be good to do that. So I didn't know if you guys had any more plans to build out the business side of things, or is it more just game focused, or what?
No. That's what I was alluding to earlier. Is we're trying to take the widget library to the next generation. The way we did it, I think we took a lot of shortcuts in the beginning to really get some of these widgets out there. But we want to offer more. We want to offer more widgets that are missing. We want to be able to basically say, well, here's how you do, more things like the tab bar. So more structural type layout widgets that help you kind of say, okay, well, here's a multi-panel thing that is easy to do. Here's something that's like a popover controller that's good for tablet-style interfaces. Here's how you would structure, loading an image and having a spinner activity indicator indicating that things are still happening in the background and it's not fully loaded yet. Things like that. And so we want to take that to the next level, and obviously I think that's what people want. And we want to add an Android skin, things like that. So we're definitely very serious about that, about making that a lot easier to do moving forward. I think it's really key area, because even people who do games will want to produce that kind of interface. One obvious thing we want to make, and so another area we want to make easier is the whole social integration piece, which is useful for just the game, not only games but also for the apps, right? So how do you can we make it a lot easier to bring up a friends list? Certainly, so we should do that. So there are tons of things like that we should be doing, and that's on our radar, and we think it's really important.
So the real question is, I mean, do you guys, are you like chained to your desk all the time? Do you get to go home and see your families occasionally?
No, we realize that this is a marathon, and so maybe it's more like an Ironman. Where you're one day you're swimming, one day you're biking, one day you're running. So we definitely try to keep a relaxed atmosphere around here. We're trying to basically eliminate all these fire drills and all those things, and so we think we're getting it down to more of a rhythm now, but it's definitely, there's always these monkey wrenches that are external, like some random iOS 6 only bug, like that sucks. So, but I guess that's why people trust Corona less, because we know how to get around these issues. And try to get those patches out quickly, or try to make recommendations about what to do. Like the preliminary iPhone 5 guide that I put out. It's funny. We put that out. Then we went to some meetup of iOS developers. These are just these are people who work and pound on Xcode and Objective-C and things like that. And one of our engineers went to that thing, and I asked him, "Hey, how'd it go?" And he was like, "Yeah, I didn't learn anything new. We basically knew everything that they were already talking about, and they were actually doing some things in a harder way than how we did it." So that was actually reassuring. I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess we're way ahead of the game here." So, I was like, "Well, we should pat ourselves on the back then." So, Because sometimes you don't know, right, until you go out there and say, well, what's the other situation? Because, for a lot of our developers, a lot of our community, they're not necessarily they're not talking to the other hardcore iOS developers. They're coding at the Lua level, not the Objective-C level, so they don't actually know. But actually, when we go out and talk and find out, we're like, hey, actually, we're not so bad. It's like, wow, actually, we're pretty far ahead of what people are doing, and obviously, maybe it's because we make things so easy that when something bad happens, the developer community's like, oh yeah, why isn't something fixed yesterday? And we're like, okay, but I guess that just means that it's a good sign that we're doing our jobs right, that we make it look easy.
Yeah.
Even though it's not. So.
Well, I tell you what, I for one appreciate the fact that you guys put out daily builds. I like that you update the documentation that goes out with the daily builds. I mean, that makes it very good for the developers.
Yeah, that was a big change that we had because our old system was we had this thing in Drupal, and before when you looked at documentation, you had to look at this crazy matrix of, okay, well, does this API work on the build I'm on? And I was thinking, like, this is nuts. How is a developer ever going to figure this out? Like, obviously we know because we're doing it every day, but so we basically spent a lot of time transitioning to a new documentation system that was homegrown. It's actually based on Markdown. We're trying to figure out if there's some way we could, involve the community more since it is based on Markdown. But what it allowed us to do was take snapshots that paired with the daily builds. So we're pretty pleased with that. Obviously, it could be a lot better, and we added some feedback buttons on the bottom where if you click, you can say click I love it, I like it, but it could be better, or the third option, which is hate it. It's funny when people hate it. I think because we put the word hate it, they don't hold back. They really like give us a new one, and we're like, wow. But I think if we chose a different word other than hate it, they might have been a little bit more low key about their hatred. But I think it just shows that they're really passionate about saying, yeah, this could be a lot better. And so one of the things that we did a few weeks ago is we hooked it into our bug base. So now we're able to get those things. We'll be able to keep track of that feedback a lot more. So we're actually monitoring that much more, and we'll actually be able to reply to if someone leaves their email in that feedback, we'll actually be able to reply to them saying, hey, we fixed it, and they'll be able to know that now. So we think we've got a pretty good system going, and we're only going to try to make it better.
Oh, good, yeah, because that speed of feedback, the fact, like you say, people put on there, hate it or whatever. I mean, the worst case scenario is that nobody tells you anything. No feedback would be a killer. So
yeah, exactly.
So
and the other worst thing is that they give the feedback and they don't feel like anything happens. And so we revamped the system to make sure that we're able to reach out to folks and say, hey, we addressed this. Check it out tomorrow, or no, it's up on the current site because it's a typo in the current public release documentation. So that's something that we're going to start doing kind of more aggressively, so that people realize, hey, yeah, we actually do pay attention. And the other thing that we are doing is we're in the process of migrating to a better forum system because we recognize that our forum system is really rickety and the foundation's starting to fall apart on it. And so we're moving to a new forum system. So the very first set of forums will actually be, what we're going to do is we're going to create a forum for each API page. So at the bottom of each API page, if you've got feedback or you've got questions about usage, the one feedback we got was that in the old forums you could comment. The problem for us was that commenting system was outside the forums, and so what we're going to do with the new forums is basically unify everything so that for each API documentation page, you can go to a specific forum and talk about questions related to that API. And I think that'll help people kind of focus the discussion a little bit more, and I think it'll be pretty useful for people.
Wow.
I think the new forum also have the ability to qualify. I believe it'll have things more like what you see on Stack Overflow, where you can vote saying, yeah, this is a useful comment, or no, this wasn't so useful. Just so that if someone who discovered Corona through the internet visited the forum for the first time, they can see comments and get a feel for what's worth reading and what's not.
Yeah, I think that's community curated information. That's definitely a good direction because you got moderators can't moderate, and if the community pushes information to the top, then it's got to be valuable. So
right, exactly.
So that's good stuff.
Walter, I noticed on the site the other day that you are in the process of hiring some more people to add to the Corona Labs team. Do you want to
Yes.
mention that and help get the word out that you are looking for talent?
Yes, absolutely. You know, it's funny. I actually wrote the little thing up on the about page for the jobs, and I thought it really kind of captured the spirit of what we were trying to do here, which is, you know, we're trying to really change the way people develop software and really also do things that really have a huge impact on people. So it's not just enough to build amazing technologies. You know, I looked at a lot of other job pages and they're like, yeah, you know, be amazing or amaze yourself. And I'm like, well, that's kind of rather empty. I mean, you can only amaze yourself so often before you get burnt out. But I think, you know, when it comes down to it, when you feel like you're having an impact on other people's lives, that's really where you start to have kind of a rewarding feeling that can carry you much longer than this ephemeral feeling of I'm amazing. I'm like, who cares? It's like, but what really makes us excited is when we go to these meetups and say, you know, people are doing cool things, they're building their lives around Corona, or they're coding for the first time, and so we're looking for people that really love that idea, and also people who are willing to kind of give their best. I think that's a really valuable thing, and if you look at what coaches do on teams in sports, coaches are able to get the teams to give their best because that's how great things happen, and so that's what we're trying to do here as well. And so we are looking for really talented people that are, you know, have a great attitude, are willing to give their best, and really believe in what we're doing. And in terms of actual positions, we're looking for kind of cloud engineers. We're looking for core mobile engineers to work on the engine. We're looking for more of an apps frameworks guy because we think there are a lot more higher level Lua APIs that can make you guys much more productive. We're looking for you know, a developer evangelist to promote Corona, and that's more about kind of that role. I think is less so about. Well, I don't actually know. David knows more about that, so I shouldn't tell him that. But I think it was more about kind of reaching out to developers in the same way that, you know, we've seen some other companies who have these guys, and I don't know, I don't know what they do, but it seems like that's something important to do. It's interesting. I guess most of you guys are our best evangelists already, so I'm not even sure exactly what this guy's going to do.
Well, I know. Back in the day, Macromedia used to have a bunch of evangelists, you know, that went around to all the events, and they would hold these demonstrations, basically to demo the software on stage. And I was actually a Macromedia groupie. I used to go and hang out at these things and just take notes because they would go through the software on stage. And I would just write down and learn, you know, everything. Oh, he pushed Command H. What was that? You know, I mean, and it was extremely helpful. And I would drag people with me, you know. So
right.
So don't discount the.
No, you know. I was being a little facetious.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But,
I was also going to say it doesn't help if that person's hot.
I'm not going to say anything to that one.
Oh, you don't have to.
I'm just not going to like it.
No, HR is going to come after us.
No, not from a company perspective. No, never. I'm just saying as from an audience perspective, it doesn't hurt.
Right. Okay.
Moving on.
Well, darn, I was going to apply.
Yeah. I definitely want to congratulate you, Walter, because I know whenever Charles and I were looking at, you know, we want to move to mobile apps, we want to do this stuff, you know, where do we want to go? And so we're basically, think of it kind of like we're interviewing all of these other companies. Okay, you have this, let's go see what you got. You know, who are you? Are you growing? Are you... One of the main things that I pulled from all of this is that, you know, community is the #2 link on your website. You truly have reached out to the community to say, here's code. Here is how you get in touch with us. Here's what we're doing for you. Here's the events. You know, we got ambassadors. We've got, you know, partners. We've got. It was really nice that as a developer, I now know I have a support network because I mean, a lot of what you do. I've been to some languages where you just felt like you were really out in the cold. because you're looking for examples and you're Googling going, all right, well, guys, how do I do this? And all you get is crickets. And whenever we start looking for stuff for Corona, it's like, oh, well, here's like 18 different examples from people who go, hey, here's a way. And another person goes, well, yeah, and here's another way. And and so it was really helpful for us to know that not only do you have this growing community, but that you truly embrace, growing the community.
Yeah, no, we're very serious about trying to do that, and we're actually, I think we're in the process of creating kind of a more ambassador section of our subsite where the ambassadors can go and post events. We're trying to encourage them to post their photos, and really get involved any way we can, and we're trying to support them, whether it's kind of giving them some money to help run the meetup event, to get some pizza for their event, and things like that. But we really want to encourage that as well. I think because you guys are the reason we're here. We didn't have, these developer evangelists in the beginning, and that's why I said our customers, you guys are our best evangelists, and so definitely really appreciate everything you guys are doing, because I think together we've done great things, and so yeah, thank you.
Well, very cool. Well, we're coming up on the hour mark, so I know you've got a whole day ahead of you. There, so I want to basically ask: does anybody else have any final questions before we head out?
Yes, actually. How do I get a hat?
How do you get a hat?
He wants a Corona hat.
Oh yeah, we gotta get some hats. Let us. Yeah, we have mugs. We have stress balls.
Ooh, those are always fun.
And we also have T-shirts. So if you don't already have T-shirts, we will get you some.
Okay.
I'll send you.
You need to look into hats. Just saying.
You really want the hats? Okay. We will put that on our short list for what tchotchkes to get next, what swag to get next.
Very nice. Very nice.
Now, Walter, we want to have you back again sometime in the future, so as things continue to develop. So we do appreciate your coming on today and giving up some of your valuable time. Now get back to developing.
Yeah, I will. If I have any cool things to announce, I'll definitely let you guys know and maybe come on the program and talk about that. And certainly I'll let you know next time when I'm back in Dallas so we can all hang out again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yes. That would be great. Very cool. Well, thank you for being with us, and for everybody out there that's watching, thank you for tuning in today. We will have all the show notes on this show. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but we'll put links to the Corona Lab site, to the employment listings, and all those types of things. So be sure to look for that, and be sure to hit us up on Google+. You can circle us. You can find us on YouTube.com/CoronaGeek. And if you are looking for more information about Corona, definitely the good place to be is on coronalabs.com. So thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you on Monday at 2 p.m. Central right back here on Google+. All right?
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Now, hang on, before you hit the record button, because, not everybody has these, so I figured I would throw it out to him first. Okay, Walter.
Yeah.
When the zombie apocalypse happens, I'm just curious what your plan is to, survive and all.
I'm going to try to build a spaceship and go through a black hole into another dimension where I'm away from the zombies.
That's way more interesting than mine. Mine's just
that's a much better answer.
I think yours involves peanut butter, Toff.
Oh, there you go.